Have you ever walked into a room and just stood there, frozen, not knowing what you were going to look for? Has it happened that you run into someone you know, but you can't remember their name, even though it's on the tip of your tongue? If it has happened to you, you're not alone. After 70, many people begin to notice small lapses. Names, appointments, dates, places. At first they seem normal, but over time they create concern, anxiety, and in some cases, even fear. Memory, that inner compass that guides us through life, starts to falter. And with it, we feel that our stories, our habits, even parts of who we are, slip away. But the good news is that the brain, though it ages, can also be cared for. And according to several neurologists who specialize in brain aging, there are specific vitamins that help protect our neurons, strengthen brain connections, and improve mental clarity. Yes, what you eat directly influences what you remember. In this video, I'm going to share the 5 vitamins neurologists most often recommend to strengthen memory after 70. You may already consume some of them, but not in the right way. Others, you might not have known had so much power over your mind. And we'll also see how to incorporate them into your daily life simply and safely. Memory is the soul of your story. Don't lose it without a fight. Stay with me to the end, and I assure you, you'll better understand how your mind works and what you can do, starting today, to protect it. And before we begin, I'd love to get to know you a bit more. How old are you and where are you watching us from? Leave it in the comments. I'll love to read you. As we age, our body changes, and the brain does too. After 70 years of age, it's normal to notice certain occasional forgetfulness. It doesn't mean something is wrong, much less that a serious illness is developing. In reality, they're part of a natural process we all go through. For example, forgetting where you left your keys, needing more time to find a word, or walking into a room and not remembering why, are things that, while annoying, are not alarming. They're part of how a brain functions when it no longer processes at the same speed as before. And why does this happen? Because as the years pass, the brain experiences a slight but steady reduction in volume. The connections between neurons, called synapses, slow down. The production of certain chemicals like acetylcholine, which is key for learning and memory, also decreases. It's as if the highways our memories travel on become a bit narrower. The traffic continues, but it flows more slowly. Now then, it's important to distinguish what is normal and what is not. When forgetfulness becomes frequent, interferes with daily life, or causes confusion, then it may be a sign of something more serious. For example, forgetting recent events, asking the same question many times, or getting lost in familiar places are warning signs that should be discussed with a doctor. But here's something hopeful. Although brain aging can't be stopped, it can be slowed. And in many cases, memory can even improve with proper habits. It's not just about crosswords or brain games. What you eat also matters, much more than you imagine. Experts in neurology agree that nutrition is a key pillar for keeping the mind active. Neurons need energy, oxygen, and specific nutrients to function. And among those nutrients, there are certain vitamins that act as brain protectors, helping keep connections strong, reducing inflammation, and improving circulation. That's why in this video, we'll focus on those 5 essential vitamins. They're not magic formulas, but they are powerful allies if used wisely and consistently. Because memory doesn't disappear overnight. It weakens little by little, sometimes without our noticing. And the sooner you start taking care of it, the longer you'll keep it. Good memory isn't just remembering dates or names, it's remembering who you are. It's preserving your story. Vitamin B12, the protector of memory. There are nutrients that go unnoticed, quiet, almost invisible. But when they're missing, their absence is strongly felt. Vitamin B12 is one of them. Although many people have never even mentioned it in conversation, vitamin B12 is fundamental for the nervous system. It acts like a kind of electrician for the brain. It helps maintain the myelin sheaths that cover nerves, speeds the signals that travel between neurons, and participates in the formation of neurotransmitters, those substances that allow us to think, remember, feel, and move. Without enough B12, the brain starts to fail. And the problem is that from 70 onward, many older adults stop absorbing it well, even if they consume it. Why does this happen? Because with age, the stomach produces less acid, which is needed to break down food and release B12. In addition, some people take medications like omeprazole or metformin, which reduce its absorption even more. So how do you know if you're lacking this vitamin? The symptoms are often subtle at first. Constant fatigue, a tingling sensation in hands or feet, lack of concentration, mood changes, and especially memory loss. In some cases, this deficiency is mistaken for dementia. And the saddest thing is that, when treated, memory can improve quickly. A study published in the journal Neurology showed that older adults with B12 deficiency who began supplementing exhibited notable improvements in memory and concentration tests within a matter of weeks. It's not magic, it's biology. So where is this vitamin found? Primarily in animal-based foods. Liver, fish such as salmon or sardines, lean meats, eggs and dairy products. However, diet alone is not always enough. Especially if you have stomach issues, if you follow a vegetarian diet, or if you're already over 70. That's why many physicians recommend supplementing safely, whether with tablets, drops or injections depending on the case. But pay attention, you shouldn't self-medicate. Before starting any supplement, you need a blood test to measure your B12 levels. Only then can a professional tell you whether you truly need a boost and what the best way to take it is. Remember, not all fatigue is normal, and not all memory loss is irreversible. Sometimes your body is simply asking for help. Vitamin B12 doesn't make a fuss, but when it's missing, the brain slowly powers down. And when it returns, the mind can shine again. Vitamin D, beyond bones. For years, we've been told that vitamin D is good for bones. And yes, it is. It strengthens calcium, prevents fractures, and helps ward off osteoporosis. But what many don't know is that it also nourishes the brain. Vitamin D acts as a silent regulator of our mind. It participates in neurotransmitter formation, reduces inflammation in the nervous system, and protects against cognitive decline. You could say it's like an inner light that keeps our memory active and awake. Several scientific studies confirm this. One of them, conducted in older adults over 5 years, found that people with low vitamin D levels had up to a 70% higher risk of developing memory loss and mental confusion. Another study, published in the Journal of Clinical Endocrinology, demonstrated a direct relationship between low vitamin D levels and symptoms of mild depression, anxiety, and even general apathy in older adults. In other words, it's not only about forgetting things, it's also about how you feel about yourself. And here comes the key question. Why do so many older people have vitamin D deficiency? The answer is simple and concerning. From a certain age, our skin loses the ability to synthesize vitamin D when exposed to the sun. In addition, many older adults spend more time indoors, whether for comfort, safety, or illness. Modern diets don't help much either. So how do you get vitamin D? The best source is sunlight. Just 15 to 20 minutes a day, with arms and face exposed, is enough to produce a good dose. But if you can't go out, or if you live in a place with little sun, you can also find it in foods like salmon, egg yolks, beef liver, mackerel, and mushrooms. Even so, supplementation is often necessary. This is where the neurologist's advice is key. Not all doses work for everyone. Excess vitamin D can have consequences, such as nausea, muscle weakness, or excess calcium in the blood. That's why, before taking supplements, it's important to get a blood test that shows your current levels. And one more thing. Neurologists often recommend that if you take vitamin D, you also take magnesium. Magnesium helps activate vitamin D in the body. Without it, much of what you take is wasted. It's like having gasoline, but no spark. Remember this, sunlight doesn't just warm your skin, it can also awaken your mind. Vitamin D is simple, affordable, and powerful. And it could be, quietly, the ally your memory was waiting for. Vitamin E, antioxidant of memory. Memory, like any other part of the body, wears down over time, and one of the most silent causes of that wear is oxidative stress. You may never have heard the term, but what it causes is familiar. It leads to mental fog, slow thinking, and that haze that sometimes appears in the mind for no apparent reason. Over the years, the body accumulates small harmful molecules called free radicals. These molecules attack cells, including brain cells, and make them age faster. This is where a powerful and often overlooked vitamin comes into play: vitamin E. Vitamin E is one of the most potent antioxidants that exists. Its main function is to protect cell membranes, especially in the brain, which is one of the organs most sensitive to oxidative damage. We could say it acts like a natural shield, keeping neurons from deteriorating prematurely. But the most interesting part is that science has already confirmed it. A study conducted by Rush Medical Center in the United States followed more than 2,000 older adults over several years. Participants who consumed adequate levels of vitamin E had a lower risk of developing mild cognitive impairment, that intermediate stage between normal forgetfulness and dementia. And not only that, they also performed better on memory and attention tests. However, there's something you should know. Dose matters. Taking too much vitamin E can be dangerous, especially if it's taken as a supplement without medical supervision. High doses can interfere with blood clotting and increase bleeding risk, particularly if you take anticoagulant medications. So, how much is enough? For most older adults, a moderate daily amount, from food, is more than sufficient to protect memory without risks. Only in cases of diagnosed deficiency is supplementation recommended, always under medical supervision. And where do you find it naturally? In foods you probably already know: almonds, sunflower seeds, walnuts, spinach, avocado, and vegetable oils such as olive oil. These foods are not only rich in vitamin E, but also in healthy fats that help the brain function better. There are many myths about this vitamin. Some say it works for everything, others think it's only for the skin. The truth lies in balance. It isn't a miracle cure, but it is a great ally when combined with good habits. Vitamin E won't give you back the memory of youth, but it can help keep your mind clear for longer, protect your memories, and give you that little push to think more nimbly each day. Sometimes caring for the brain doesn't require big changes. Just adding a handful of nuts, a salad with spinach, or a bit of olive oil. Small gestures that add up to big benefits. Vitamin C, memory and defenses united. When you think of vitamin C, you probably think of a cold. That lifelong recommendation, have an orange so you don't get sick. And yes, it's true. Vitamin C strengthens the immune system. But what many don't know is that it can also protect your memory. This vitamin performs multiple functions in the body, but its role in the brain is especially interesting. First, because it helps maintain good blood circulation. And as you surely know, the brain needs blood rich in oxygen and nutrients to function well. Every thought, every memory, every word you speak depends on your neurons being well nourished. And for that, circulation has to be active and unobstructed. In addition, vitamin C is one of the most powerful antioxidants we have. It neutralizes free radicals that damage cells, slows brain aging, and helps fight inflammation, one of the silent causes of cognitive decline. But the most fascinating part is that it doesn't work alone. It works as a team with other vitamins, especially vitamin E. While vitamin E protects neuron membranes, vitamin C regenerates its action and keeps it active longer. That is, they reinforce each other. Now I want to tell you a real story. Mary is 79 years old. She has always been very active, sociable. She loved reading and chatting with her grandchildren. But in recent years, she started to feel disconnected. She forgot where she left things, felt mentally slow, even confused. At first, she thought it was part of aging, but something inside told her she shouldn't resign herself. She consulted a neurologist, and after several tests, they discovered she had a mild vitamin C deficiency, along with a diet low in fruits and vegetables. The doctor didn't prescribe medications. He gave her just one piece of advice. Start each day with half a glass of lemon juice, a tangerine, or a kiwi. Add red bell peppers to your meals, and don't be afraid of color on your plate. Mary didn't hesitate. She changed her breakfast, improved her habits, and in just 3 months, she began to notice the difference. She felt clearer, sharper, more awake. Her children noticed too. She went back to finishing books, remembered birthdays, and resumed her lively chats with her grandchildren. Was it only vitamin C? Surely not, but it was a spark. One of those small decisions that have a big impact. And you can do it too. Foods rich in vitamin C are easy to find and incorporate. Oranges, tangerines, lemons, kiwis, strawberries, peppers, broccoli, kale, and guava. The more variety, the better. Do remember that this vitamin isn't stored in the body. You need to consume it every day, even in small amounts. Mental clarity is not a privilege of the young. It can also be cultivated in maturity, and sometimes adding a bit of color and freshness to your plate is enough to see the difference. Vitamin B9, folic acid, the bridge between neurons. Of all the essential vitamins for the mind, there's one that rarely comes up in everyday conversations, and yet its absence can deeply affect our capacity to focus, remember, and learn new things. We're talking about vitamin B9, also known as folic acid. You might think this vitamin only matters during pregnancy. That's what we hear most. But the truth is that after 70, its role in the brain is just as important. Vitamin B9 actively participates in neurotransmitter production, those chemical substances that enable communication between neurons. Dopamine, serotonin, norepinephrine all depend in part on good folic acid levels. We might imagine it as a bridge between neurons. When that bridge is strong, thoughts flow clearly. When it's missing, everything becomes slower, more confused. Vitamin B9 deficiency is more common than you might think, especially in older adults who don't consume enough green vegetables or who have intestinal absorption problems. And its consequences are not minor. People with low B9 levels may have trouble concentrating, irritability, mental fatigue, and a constant feeling of a foggy mind. Moreover, several studies have shown that this vitamin is also related to mood and overall cognitive performance. An interesting point is that B9 works together with B12. Both collaborate in the production of red blood cells, but they also need each other for their neurological functions to be effective. That's why, when a neurologist detects memory deficits, the first thing they often check is whether the patient is lacking one, or both. And where can you find this vitamin naturally? Mainly in foods that come from the earth: spinach, chard, broccoli, kale, lentils, chickpeas, beans, avocado, and asparagus. It's also present in some citrus fruits and in fortified whole grains. The problem is that many older adults don't consume enough of these foods, perhaps out of habit, lack of appetite, or because their digestive systems don't tolerate them well. In such cases, the neurologist may recommend a specific supplement, always after a blood test. But it's important to remember that excess isn't good either. Unnecessary supplementation can mask other deficiencies or cause imbalances. So the ideal is to start with the simplest: improve daily eating. A plate of lentils, a green salad, a smoothie with spinach. Small gestures that can bring great benefits to your mind. Vitamin B9 has been ignored for a long time, but in the world of healthy aging, it's beginning to take its rightful place. Not out of fashion, but because of evidence. Caring for memory doesn't always require big changes. Sometimes it's enough to nourish those invisible bridges that connect your thoughts and let them keep telling your story day after day. Combinations and synergies between vitamins. Sometimes we think that the more we take, the better. More vitamins, more supplements, more capsules. But the body doesn't work that way. It's not about taking more, it's about taking well. Vitamins work as a team. Some enhance one another, helping and reinforcing each other. Others, if taken carelessly, can interfere, compete, or even harm your health. That's why it's so important to know the right combinations, and also the possible mistakes we should avoid. One of the best known and most effective pairs is vitamin B12 and vitamin B9. Both participate in red blood cell formation, in the development of the nervous system, and above all, in memory. But the most important thing is that one depends on the other. When B9 is lacking, B12 can't do its job well. And when B12 is lacking, the body can't use B9 correctly. Taking them together, whether through food or supplements guided by a doctor, is key to improving concentration and mental clarity. Another powerful combination is vitamin C and vitamin E. Both are antioxidants, but each works in different places. While vitamin E protects cell membranes, vitamin C acts in the body's fluids. But here's the secret. Vitamin C regenerates vitamin E. That is, when E fights cellular damage and gets weakened, C reactivates it. They're like two friends who look out for each other in a hostile environment. Now be careful with excess. Many older adults take several supplements a day without knowing if they need them. And although vitamins are essential, too much can cause side effects. For example, too much vitamin E can increase bleeding risk, especially in people who already take anticoagulants. Excess vitamin D can cause calcium buildup in the blood, which can affect the kidneys. Some combinations can interfere with common medications for blood pressure, diabetes, or even antidepressants. That's why the neurologist's advice is always the same. Before taking any supplement, get a comprehensive blood test. It's the only way to know what you're lacking, what's in balance, and what you might be overdoing. But not everything comes down to pills. One of the safest and most effective ways to improve your mental health is through food. And you don't need radical changes. Start little by little. Add a fresh fruit every morning. Include a leafy green salad at lunch. Add a handful of nuts or seeds for a snack. Swap white bread for whole grain. Cook with olive oil instead of butter. These are simple gestures, but when repeated every day, they become cared-for memory, steadier mood, and a more awake mind. Your brain doesn't need excess, it needs balance, and that balance is often closer than you think, in your kitchen, on your plate, in your daily decisions. When we talk about caring for memory, we often focus only on what we eat. And of course, diet is a fundamental piece. But there's something just as important that we often forget: how we use the brain day to day. The brain is a special kind of muscle. The more we use it, the stronger it stays. But if we leave it idle, abandoned to routine, if we stop thinking, learning, or connecting, then it starts to shut down, slowly, quietly. That's why neurologists insist daily mental activity is essential for preserving memory. And you don't need to do complicated things. You don't have to solve equations or learn Chinese. It's enough to read a book, even a few pages a day. Learn something new, like a recipe or a song. Play cards, dominoes, or a puzzle. Write what you remember from your childhood. Talk with someone about an interesting topic. All of that activates connections between neurons. And the more connections you have, the harder it is for important memories to be lost. Another key part of lifestyle is physical movement. Walking, dancing, doing gentle exercises, swimming, stretching every morning. Exercise doesn't just strengthen the body, it also improves blood flow to the brain, stimulates the production of new neurons, and reduces stress, which harms the mind so much. A study in older adults showed that those who walked at least 30 minutes a day had better memory, better mood, and a lower risk of cognitive decline. And here's an aspect we often underestimate: sleeping well. At night, the brain does a deep cleaning. It sorts memories, discards what isn't useful, and consolidates what we learned during the day. If we don't sleep well, that task is interrupted, and memory suffers. That's why keeping a sleep routine, avoiding screens before bed, and eating a light dinner are simple habits that can have a big impact. And what about isolation? As we age, many people drift away. Children live their own lives, some friends are lost over time, and loneliness settles in almost without our noticing. But prolonged isolation can seriously affect the mind. Feeling lonely doesn't just sadden you, it also slows thinking, creativity, and language. So even if it's hard, it's important to maintain bonds, look for places to share, go out, talk to someone, even the neighbor, a grandchild, or in a group for older adults. Routine is comfortable, but dangerous. The mind needs challenges, movement, emotion. Think of your brain like your legs. If you don't use them, they weaken. If you use them every day, they stay strong. Walk with your mind. Repeat new mental paths, even if it's hard at first, because as long as your brain is awake, you continue telling your story with dignity and clarity. You don't need to be young to have good memory. You just need to be consistent, curious, and brave. Do you know what the most valuable thing you have in life is? It's not your belongings. It's not your house. It's not even time. It's your memory. Because memory holds your laughter, your hugs, your decisions, your lessons, your story. And most importantly, it isn't lost overnight. It's neglected, little by little, without our noticing. But it can also be protected. It can be cared for. And yes, it can be improved. Today you discovered that there are 5 vitamins that can help keep your mind more alert and stronger after 70. Vitamin B12, which keeps your nerves and your long-term memory healthy. Vitamin D, which not only protects your bones, but also your mood and mental functions. Vitamin E, that quiet shield that defends your neurons from daily wear. Vitamin C, which strengthens your body but also boosts your mental clarity. And vitamin B9, that invisible bridge that connects your thoughts and improves your focus. 5 natural, simple, accessible allies that don't promise miracles, but do give you a real chance to protect what matters most. And do you know the most beautiful part of all this? That it's never too late to start. It doesn't matter if you're 70, 80, or 90. Today, you can make a different decision. Add a new food to your plate. Move your body a bit more. Read a book. Have a meaningful conversation. And with each gesture, you're feeding your brain. The neurologist we worked with for this video summed it up very clearly. Your mind, like your body, needs to be nourished every day. And not just with food, also with words, ideas, memories, emotions. So today, more than a list of vitamins or a random tip, we want you to take away one certainty. Your memory matters. Your mind deserves attention, and you deserve to live with lucidity and dignity. Now we want to hear from you. Which of these vitamins did you already know was good for memory? What other ways do you use to keep your mind awake and active? Do you have any tips that have worked for you and that you'd like to share?
Leave them in the comments.
We want to read you, support you, and learn with you. Because at the end of the day, we're all here for the same thing: to remember more, live better, and never give up.